At least 2 game studios, maybe even a third from Microsoft Studios, have been reported to be on the verge or trying to avoid a potential closure, with Double Fine and Compulsion Games being infamous for reportedly letting ideology and identity politics dictate their development cycle. First of all, according to IGN and Bloomberg, Ninja Theory, creator of the Hellblade series, were told on a call on Monday, according to The Verge, about the closure, but The Verge goes on to say that they are hoping the studio will find a buyer. However, it is the other 2 studios, Compulsion Games and Double Fine, are getting more of the attention right now. The developer behind South of Midnight and We Happy Few are reportedly, according to Kotaku, in negotiations over the company's future, along with Ninja Theory and Double Fine, to quote-unquote spin off from Microsoft. Now, according to ex-user Pirate Nation, they say, quote, the report comes after Mike Straw said employees at Compulsion and Arcane were worried about their studio's future. He later added some of his sources were senior staff who said that there were real concerns inside the team. Compulsion did join Xbox in 2018 and released South of Midnight in 2025. And it did win a Peabody Award. They were also the people behind Contrast on several platforms before joining the Xbox Game Studios in 2018. Now, as for Double Fine Studios, who is most famous for the Psychonauts franchise, they responded to the talks of potential closure with a single emoji that they posted on X, as you see on the screen right now. The Tim Schafer-led studio was bought by Microsoft in June of 2019, and then released Keeper and Clin in 2025 and the early 2026 respectively, neither of which, according to IGN, were commercial hits. Now, the reason that Double Fine and Compulsion Games is getting more of the attention is because of the idea of the quote-unquote go woke, go broke mentality. With Compulsion Games, they worked with controversial video game consultant Sweet Baby Inc. on South of Midnight, as you see in the screenshot of the credits there, which may have led to some to steer clear of that particular title. And as for Double Fine, Tim Schafer is well documented to using block bots in order to block anybody who had talked about certain topics like Gamergate and those that criticize Anita Sarkeesian. According to this statement by Tim Schafer, at the time saying, we worked with Anita on Psychonauts 2 and she helped us make a better game. Anita pointed out multiple issues that were in blind spots we didn't even know we had. She provided a new perspective and helped us avoid saying things with our game that we didn't intend to say and wouldn't want to say if we knew we were saying them. Basically, she helped us avoid stepping in multiple bear traps. Anita helped us make a product that was just as entertaining as before, but one that now did less harm and could be enjoyed by more people. As we well have established throughout the years, Anita Sarkeesian is well known for being very polarizing in her truth with women in the video game series, which she had been accused of taking multiple stories out of context in order to fit her narrative, which was not celebrated by even those that would have shared her fundamental viewpoints, as well as plagiarizing Let's Play footage, among other things, including silencing and smearing any form of criticism against her viewpoints as personal attacks against her and women in general. Now, before I go any further about my thoughts about this, Pirate Nation and his 2 tweets about the subject about Compulsion Games do have a few community notes on them, but both of them seem to not have any bit of validity behind them. Pirate Nation posted the initial tweet about Compulsion Games before Kotaku made that edit. He posted his tweet around 1 o'clock, and 15 minutes later, Kotaku edited in order to say that Compulsion Games was in talks with Microsoft, so it could be that Pirate Nation did have the accurate information at that point in time, and then after he posted it, Microsoft got into talks and Kotaku reported on that. And of course, it is Kotaku, so take it with a grain of salt. Also, on the second one where he talks about the Outer Worlds 2 and the amount of money that was put into it, there is a community note that does say something about the source not having the exact information, but when you try to click on the LinkedIn link that's associated with that community note, it is behind a paywall. We don't know what the person said. It would be helpful if someone did say something in the replies concerning what was actually said and show some proof of this. And it's not like anybody's going to actually admit to whether or not the money was used in a way that benefited the game or went right into pockets of bonuses or something like that. We can't go upon what somebody said behind a paywall. So I don't know why people are trying to do that with community notes. There's a lot we can say about community notes right in the moment. So yeah, there's a little bit of some weirdness going on there. I think somebody is trying to discredit somebody when they know that the person they're trying to discredit had the correct information at the time that they posted it. And of course, Dave Rivera Airbag is of course going on his little tangents on his millions and millions of different accounts, which X never does anything about. They do put him as a parody account, but apparently he's still trying to discredit people who he knows is correct. But anyway, let's get to South of Midnight first, because I do believe, yeah, okay, maybe it did win an award. I don't know anything about the game. However, even though they're just a consulting firm, we've talked about SBI before and how controversial they are. It seems like every time they touch a game or touch a production company, either the game fails, it's not living up to expectations, or the entire studio closes down. Usually it's the independent studios that close down. If you have more money than SBI can suck out of you, then you can survive, as pertains maybe Rocksteady Games or something like that, or Insomniac Games. But if you're an independent studio and you work with them, it's pretty apparent that it's not going to go over well for you. Now, you can blame, oh, well, these chuds are poisoning the well, so to speak. But if you have this many studios closing down and all of these studios are working with the same consulting firm and the independent studios are closing down, yet that consulting firm stays afloat for whatever reason, wouldn't Sweet Baby Inc. lose money at this sort of thing? Yet they're staying afloat. And I have to wonder if somebody needs to say something like, wait a minute, how is Sweet Baby Inc. still alive? How are they still in business? How are they still able to make money? And I would think that maybe the cost of hiring them is not worth it. They're taking money away from these production studios and from these developers to the point where they're risking their entire existence on the back of some of these games. I mean, you take a look at Compulsive Games and South of Midnight. Even if the game did do well, which I don't think it did win an award, but did anybody really play it, or did they just buy it and then just sat in their Steam library for all this time and they never played it and just bought it because they felt obligated to, because it had something to do about diversity and inclusion? Which with Sweet Baby Inc., we've seen how they execute that, and they don't execute that very well. They don't execute it organically. They just say, hey, change this, change that, and people change this and that. They don't even know why they're changing it. They just do it because they were told to do so, and then everything just feels shoehorned and not legitimate. It doesn't feel like it's organic. It feels like it's tacked on, and it's exploitative of people of color and people of different identities than the cis ones. It just exploits people of marginalized groups. And then Sweet Baby Inc. just rakes in the cash and leaves these companies and these studios out to dry and say, too bad, so sad. Maybe the people who are getting shafted by Sweet Baby Inc., and I'm talking about people at Compulsion Games, maybe they should say something. Maybe, hey, wait a minute, where are you still afloat and we have to be left holding the bag? Maybe they should go about filing lawsuits against Sweet Baby Inc. Maybe they need to be the ones to do it. How many studios have to keep failing on the back of some of these types of decisions, yet the one consulting firm that's telling them they have to change these things gets to stay in business and do the same thing to their studio? I don't understand that. Why is it that this consulting firm stays afloat? I think maybe these companies are being scammed. They're being told to do this or that, and they're doing it, and you can say, oh, they poisoned the well, these chuds are poisoning the well. I don't think it's chuds. First of all, I think that word is getting heavily overused anymore, first of all. Second of all, you can't dictate who's right or left wing in these sort of debates anymore. And third, even left-wing people, me included, are being tired of being told of what it means to be inclusive. Because we've been all-inclusive, we've been allies for years. What's changed here? I think it's just the execution of these ideas that are getting maligned by this consulting firm, which makes it feel tacked on and just not organic. And it's because of that that people are rejecting it. It's not because of something Critical Drinker or Nerdrotic or Elliot July has said. It's not something some right-wing quote-unquote chud had said. It's because these people are rejecting the execution of it because they feel like it's really tacked on. They feel like it's exploitative. And until you tell us why it's not, and not just say how dare you for not buying the game and not liking the game like it's some sort of obligation, we have have to buy or enjoy a game that you did like. We're not telling you you couldn't play the game. We couldn't tell you couldn't enjoy the game, but don't go off on people that don't like the game or think that some of these ideas are tacked on and not organic within the nature of the context of the stories within these games. The people who are criticizing these games for those reasons are not doing that, but the other side is definitely doing that. And the other side, I don't mean as a left versus right wing, just so you know. Now, as for Double Fine Studios, we know full well of Tim Schafer's behavior. We all know he used the Blockbot back in 2014. If you don't remember what the Blockbot was, it was this thing that was made by a group called Atheist Plus. And when Gamergate was in its infancy and it started to gain traction, a lot of people started to use these block bots, which said that anybody who mingled or talked about Gamergate or any sort of thing that had to do with it, even when you talked about it in a way saying that, hey, we do need more transparency in gaming media. If you talked about that in any sort of way, if you give them any traction in any sort of way, you could just be put on this on level 1, 2, or 3, and then somebody can just import these block lists, and then they can block a whole bunch of people without even engaging with the people who you're blocking. And you don't even know who you're blocking. You don't even know the types of people who you're getting this block list from. And that was something that some of the more fringe people on that side were doing. And the bar was set really low for getting on this block list. There was like thousands upon thousands of people that were on this block list in some form or fashion. And even if you got taken off of the block list, the damage has already been done. And Tim Schafer used this religiously. I don't think I can count the amount of people he was blocking because of this. And he probably used the other one, which I think it was Randy Harper, I think it was, that made this block list based on who others followed. If you followed certain people, you were automatically on the block list. Now, a lot has changed since then. I think that's one of the few things that Elon Musk has done with X that is a plus here, which is get rid of some of these things where you can't use the API on Twitter or X in order to mass block people, but there are some extensions, browser extensions that still let you do that, and I think that needs to be addressed because it does enforce echo chambers, and I think there's ways you can actually mitigate when people try to use block lists for that sort of reason, and I think you shouldn't use that for that reason. I think block lists are a detriment to civil discourse, but that and the fact that you can't just hide behind a block anymore. People can still see what you're saying in case you need to do something about them talking frivolously about you behind your back because you can't see it. They can't do anything to you. Now you can still have something done to you if you are frivolous or engage in libel or slander against the person that you're blocking. I think that's a good thing, although that has a double-edged sword behind it. But the way Tim Schafer used this was more of a echo chamber, sort of making an echo chamber for himself. And you probably know where he was going with it when you saw how he was working with Anita Sarkeesian, who was a much maligned and now very humiliated person anymore. Her feminist frequency thing has been laughed at beyond belief. We know all about the tropes with women in video games anymore, about how she stole Let's Play footage. She didn't get credit when she was playing the games, or whoever was playing the games for her. If you saw how the person, whoever was playing Hitman in one of her videos was playing Hitman, they were moving buddies in a way no normal player would ever play that game. No one plays the game the way that they showed them playing that game. Yet, we were led to believe that everybody was playing the game the same way. She didn't understand basic fundamental aspects of things like open world games, where, oh, you can kill a woman in a game in Red Dead Redemption, and then she would respawn. Well, she has to respawn because she might be a quest giver, a mission giver, and you might want to have her to get a mission from or something like that. She didn't understand basic fundamentals. She took everything out of context. There were basic facts about games that you could research and get the facts on, and she still was able to get those wrong. And that wasn't by mistake. She was trying to spin the narratives of these games in order to fit her own narrative. And when you factor in that she was so coddled by the gaming sphere, the gaming journalistic sphere, no one could ever criticize anything about what she was saying, or else you get labeled as misogynistic or hateful or spiteful just for the fact that you were criticizing the execution of what she was saying or her omitting key facts about games without even touching that she was a female or even getting into or even saying anything vitriolic against her. And then everybody nowadays wonders why we can't trust the gaming media now. They have never gotten the consequence for this. They never gotten the consequence. They just kept going, and then they smeared anybody who dares to challenge them. They smeared YouTubers, they smeared independent journalists, they smeared everybody because they didn't want to have their status quo challenged. And for Tim Schafer, somebody who should know better, since he was a part of the independent gaming scene, to go to her and say, hey, we want to work with you, knowing the toxicity that went on there, knowing the toxicity that goes on in Sweet Baby Inc. right now, knowing how toxic and nuclear some of these people are, why would you want to work with them? Especially with Sweet Baby Inc. when you now have this studio closing down. You now have Compulsion Games closing down. That's unless whatever is going on right now with this negotiation as of the making of this video goes the way that Compulsion wants it to. But either way, Microsoft's going to try to cut their losses here. And I believe that if any independent studio wants to also cut their losses, they might need to think about working with the Sweet Baby Inc. consulting firm. And it's not because we don't want to see team up protagonists or anything like that in our games. We certainly do. We certainly want for game companies to be inclusive, but they already were. It's just that when you deal with consulting firms, when you deal with these sort of people to try to make your games more diverse, what's going to happen is it's going to feel tacked on, and people are seeing right through it. They're not stupid. They're going to know if something is just tacked on or just being exploitative. So yeah, maybe Compulsion Games might want to look into this and see why is Sweet Baby Inc. still staying afloat. They're the latest victim here. I think Sweet Baby Inc. has a lot to answer for when it comes to some of these independent studios. Why are they getting told they have to shut down, or why are they have to shut down while Sweet Baby Inc. rolls in the dough? I don't get that. And as for Tim Schafer, maybe you shouldn't have used that block button. Maybe you did trust the wrong people. Can't say I feel sorry for him. And now his team has to suffer because he decided that he was going to mingle and jump into bed with the wrong people. And now he's got to live with it, and he has got to explain to his team that maybe the days are numbered for the studio. They got to find better work or more work, and they have nobody but him to blame, and he deserves to blame. And a lesson to all the independent studios that are looking at these consulting firms. If you need them to tell you how to be more inclusive and be more diverse, then maybe the questions need to be asked of you as to why you were never diverse or inclusive to begin with, that you needed them to help you be more diverse and inclusive. Maybe do that organically and it will come out organically, and maybe you'll have people responding to that more organically and better. And it shows how much Sweet Baby Inc. actually cares about DEI, for lack of a better phrase for it. But what are your thoughts? Please leave comments down below. Please like, share, subscribe. Please ring a bell. Please take care of yourself and each other, and I will see you next time.